McDonald's is a strange phenomenon. A fast food restaurant that brings up so much nostalgia for folks my age. I remember that if my siblings and I could convince my mom to take us, it was like winning the lottery. We didn't care that it was the basic equivalent of eating out of a trash can. We got free toys with our meal. I don't know if kids today get that excited about McDonald's, but I hope so. McDonald's has always tried to appeal to kids with their toys, play places, and weird characters. Today we're going to look at a somewhat forgotten videotape from 1990, an adaptation of one of my favorite stories, Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, with McDonald's characters. Wow. I think this show has officially reached the bottom of the barrel. Our story takes us to McDonald Land, and Ronald is hanging out with his friends Grimace, Hamburglar, and Birdie. He has a bag full of magic tricks that he starts showing off.
Bravo, Ronald. Great trick.
He starts playing a flute that can make ropes dance, but it knocks Grimace over and he rolls down the hill. Grimace runs into a guy holding a bunch of books. The man urges Ronald and his friends to take the books and then runs off.
Phew, glad I am to be rid of those strange books.
Hamburglar opens one of the books and is pulled inside, so Ronald and the rest of the crew have to follow him to try to rescue him. They land on a ship. This is the Hispaniola from Treasure Island. Immediately, Long John Silver shows up and tries to make Ronald and his friends walk the plank.
You and your crew are going for a dip in the deep blue sea.
Hey, that tickles.
To be fair, murder would probably be the first thing on my mind if a red and yellow clown just appeared in front of me, too. The ship's captain saves Ronald and friends and introduces them to Jim Hawkins, who is of course the main character of Treasure Island. Getting to some behind-the-scenes stuff, I tried to find information on this special, but there really wasn't much to come by. My guess is that they wanted to make this into a series. I would imagine it would have been similar to Wishbone, and Ronald and pals would have visited a different book every week, but I can't prove that. There was an actual series that came out 8 years later called The Wacky Adventures of Ronald McDonald, but despite having the same characters, it's not directly related to this. What we have here is just a bizarre, obscure VHS tape. That's kinda cool. You can find bootleg Blu-ray copies of it on various websites online. I may actually purchase one of these just so I can have it in my collection. There is no director credited, but the writer, Glenn Leopold, has been responsible for writing episodes of nearly 70 cartoons, including Scooby-Doo, The Smurfs, and Johnny Quest. I would love to learn more about this special. If anyone knows more, please leave a comment. Jim Hawkins explains to Ronald and friends that they're in search of a treasure on an island.
Now just tell me where it is, and we're not gonna have a problem, okay? Tell me where the treasure is, Ronald! Tell me, right now!
Ronald and Hamburglar hear Long John Silver and his men plotting to take over the ship. Their plan is to let Jim find the treasure and then steal it from him. Before Long John can carry out his sinister plan, Birdie sees the island.
Land ho!
Land who?
I bet you that's Treasure Island.
Oh, is it, Ronald? Ronald and his friends literally just leave Jim on the ship to head to the island, but Jim manages to get onto a boat and makes it to the island. Although Long John is hot on his trail.
Help! Help!
That sounds like our friend Jim Hawkins, and I'd say he was in big trouble. Come on!
Ronald tries to save him, but Grimace falls into a cave where the treasure just so happens to be hiding, along with the island hermit, Ben Gunn.
The name is Ben Gunn.
Ben Gunn may have looked scary, but he was just a poor sailor who'd been marooned on Treasure Island for 3 long years.
Ronald promises to help Ben get off the island. Meanwhile, Long John is holding Jim and his friends hostage, demanding that they find the treasure.
And if we don't find it, me lad, you'll walk the plank.
Thing is, I've buried treasure all over this town. Only problem is I can never seem to find it when I'm strapped for cash.
Ronald and crew head out to save them, but on the way they get stuck in some quicksand. Luckily, Ronald still has his magic flute, so he plays it and the vines lift his team to safety. Ben Gunn and Ronald pretend to be ghosts and scare Long John Silver's men off.
Yes, superstitious swabs, there is no ghost. Now get moving, me lads.
Stop right there, Long John Silver, or my gold will get
Ronald! So you were the ghost of Captain Flint! Now that we've helped our friends, how are we gonna get off Treasure Island?
We've got to hope one of our friends back in McDonald Land finds that closed storybook.
Another McDonald's character named the Captain comes across the book back in McDonald Land.
But what about the treasure, Ronald? Don't you want any?
No thanks, Jim. We've already got something that's better than treasure. Your friendship.
The crew makes it back to McDonald Land and all is well. That was weird. Thanks for watching. This all reminds me of a time years ago when I went in search of buried treasure. Worthless animal.